Coming up on this episode of the Manspace Podcast, we got a conversation with esteemed dermatologist Dr. Jeffrey Scales. We're going to talk about razor bumps, sunburns, and different ways to protect your skin. Coming up next.
Live from a Zoom call somewhere in the Carolinas, it's Russ, it's Les, it's the Manspace Podcast. Take it away, fellas.
Thank you, voice girl, and welcome once again to another edition of the Manspace Podcast. Now, this is the voice of Russ, and with me, as always, is my co-host who is happy he's trading in his love for breakdancing for Dancing with the Stars, the one and only Big Les.
Oh
What's
my
up,
God.
man?
How you gonna tell everybody my business, man? Yeah.
Because we're friends and I love you, man, I want
Man.
everybody to know about your love of Dancing with the Stars.
Well, I just got finished pop locking and dropping it, and I hurt my knee. So, you know, I don't know about dancing no more. But hey, but Dancing with the Stars is a good show, man. Not my
I've
favorite.
never watched it.
You've
never watched
never watched it?
No, I've never watched it. Not once. Nope.
Not once.
Not once. No. The most I know about the show is because I watch Good Morning America, and they usually talk about the
do it every
results or
year.
yeah.
Yeah, they bring all the dancers on and talk about who won, make this big hoopla about the dance. I mean, well,
that's the most I can. That's the most I can
the
tell you.
Most.
But,
Oh wow.
Yeah,
I could go into detail, but I won't. I'll just say that it is an entertaining show, to say the least, and the progression of the dancers is very good. It shows that you can go from having 2 left feet to 1.5 left feet to a left and a right foot. I mean,
I think I'm more jealous than anything because I definitely got 2 left feet. You know, when they talk about, all of us got rhythm, they definitely lied when it came to me.
They missed you with a long stick broom.
Missed me.
Oh, they just missed you.
My 6'5" behind got missed completely.
Hey, you just stood up. I remember some days you just standing up against the wall, just bouncing your head. Well, at least you stayed in the rhythm with that.
Hey, brother, it's the 2 steps, and you don't get outside that zone.
That's
it's
it.
2 steps.
That's it. Hey,
that's all I can do.
And here's the thing: being an ex-veteran or being a veteran, you know how to use your left and your right. All you gotta do is go to one side and to the other. That's it. That's it.
That's the side you need to go. You don't need to go all out there. No, it's just
nobody will ever know you can't dance, sir.
I just admitted it to the Manspace Nation. They all know now.
See, I keep forgetting that these are not personal one-on-one conversations.
They are not.
Right. Now everybody and their mama know Russ ain't got cake dance.
Can't at all. But let me ask you a question, man.
Yeah,
You've known me for a long time. We've got over 15 years or more together.
We got a little history. We got a little history. Yeah.
And one of the things that you will call me out when I'm wrong.
I will.
So I want you, something happened today, and I want you to tell me if I'm wrong.
Okay. Let me hear it. Tell me about it.
So I'm coming home and I'm following behind a school bus. No big deal.
Right.
I'm just cruising along. Bus stops. I stop.
Yeah.
Little kid gets off the bus. He's probably about 8, maybe 9 years old. Grandma coming out the house, and you can see grandma, the way she's holding the phone, she's recording.
Right.
So little fella, he's a little fluffy fella. He's so happy to see grandma. He's running.
Okay.
And he trips.
Oh no.
And he starts to roll. I'm sitting there. The bus is taking off. I'm still sitting there laughing. Cars behind me are honking their horns because
because because you
I,
you can't
I
get
have
it together.
tears. Right, I can't get it together. I have tears in my eyes from laughing.
That is horrible.
I know, man.
But I can so see you doing it.
I know.
I can so see that out of you. So would I say would that be bad or not? I'm going to say it would be expected.
It would be
It
expected.
would be expected since I know you like I know you. That is the expected response that I would. I'm not going to say neither it was good or bad, but that would be the response that I would expect from you. The
Okay.
laughter
Okay.
and calling me later talking about, man, I just seen the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Mm. Yeah, it was good. It
It
was
was
good. After this weekend, we're 1 week into the football season,
yes.
and all I can say is,
It didn't say it. Lions are going to the playoffs.
bro, I'm not. I've retired it. I'm not even talking about your Lions. I'm talking about my Panthers, and I am in misery. I am in hurt. This is painful.
Oh,
This is painful to watch.
it was
We have a guest that's going to be coming up, and I don't know if he's a football fan or if he's or if he can share or commiserate in my misery right now. But I'm hurting right now.
I hope
You
he's a
know,
Panthers fan. I hope, I hope, I hope and pray. Hey, but listen, man, it's the first game of the season.
bro.
You
After
have a
that, I don't want to see anymore. I went to church Sunday.
yeah,
We were getting out, and the game had started, and went to the back, and I flipped on my phone so I could see the beginning of the game. And bro, by the time I flipped on my phone, we were down 17-0. I
yeah.
flipped it off and went back
It
to the
was
altar, bro.
it was no good. It
I
was
went
no
back to the
good, sir.
altar.
It
It
was
was no
no
good,
good.
no
I,
good at all.
hey, I had my phone up, right?
Hmm.
And I had you on the screen.
Hmm.
I was sending you a message, and then something said, "Don't
Don't
do it.
send it. Don't
Don't
send it.
send it."
Don't
And I
send
was like, "But we send it to me."
it. You know what? I root for you, though. I support you. I wouldn't send you anything in agony.
Yeah,
I
that's why
would
I
be
didn't send
supportive.
it to you. I didn't. I was trying to be supportive
I
because
appreciate it.
what I was going to tell you is this is just the first game of many. You have you have
It's
one
gonna be a
chance.
long year,
You have one chance of going 0-13. And
bro.
if you take that opportunity, I I will have you a t-shirt made of 0-13 Panthers. See
We
that? I'm
we,
going to buy
we
you
got bro.
clothes.
We got 16 more games to go. It's gonna be a
Hey,
long year.
it's going to be
Look, it's gonna be a long
it's going to be
year.
a long season.
Listen, but let me uplift the Man Space Nation
Yeah.
because we have a guest that is joining the show. His name is Dr. Jeffrey Scales, aka Dr. Clearskin. He is a
Yeah.
seasoned dermatologist with over 25 years of experience dedicated to addressing skincare concerns. Now, see, this is something that I think you got questions, I got questions, and we're definitely going to have a lot to talk about in this episode because a lot of the concerns really go back to people of color. See, through his practices, he's observed and recognized the significant gaps in skincare tailored to diverse skin types. So, motivated by his passion for inclusivity and commitment to serving his community, he embarked on his mission to revolutionize skincare by curating products specifically designed to address unique needs of individuals with melanin rich skin.
Oh,
Brother,
oh yeah, look at that.
I've looked
Wha-
at his products.
Yeah.
And I have like 6 different products in my cart, but I need to
Uh-huh.
find out which ones I really need to get before I hit the purchase button because
Hey,
I went a little overboard in the cart.
I don't think he would mind if you just went and got all six. You could
I'm
use them
pretty
all.
sure. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure. But Manspace Nation, please put your hands together. Dr. Clearskin is joining us right now. Welcome to the show, sir. Welcome to the
Hello, guys.
show.
How you doing?
Good. How are you, sir?
Fantastic.
I was really enjoying that conversation about the football season, week one.
Oh
And
my goodness.
Yeah.
as a former, what we used to call Washington Redskin fan,
Yes.
we call
Oh,
the
Okay.
Washington Commanders.
yes.
Sometimes it's better to get the pain with over early and just
Mm.
enjoy watching the other teams play.
Yeah.
Yes. 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 I, uh, yeah. I've
So,
moved on.
so
I
he's
have
not
a.
a Panthers fan.
He
I would
is
the Panthers are probably my third favorite team. I grew up in the
okay.
Washington D.C. area, and I
Okay.
grew up, Washington Redskins, which became the Washington
The
football team
command.
and the Commanders.
Yeah.
Right.
So I've seen some championships. I'm fortunate enough to
Yes.
see a couple in my lifetime. That's more than most people get. So
That's true.
I'm just happy
That's
to
true.
see a good team out on the field. I'll take 500. I'm happy for that. The
Yeah.
Panthers have really slipped,
Ugh.
but sometimes you got
They
to
have.
go there to rebuild.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
true. I tell you, I grew up. I actually grew up a Washington Redskins fan. I was a huge Joe Theismann fan. So
Yes.
Theismann and Riggins. Theismann was my favorite quarterback. When he got his leg broken
Hmm.
by Lawrence Taylor, I've hated every team in the state of New York in all sports. The entire state in every sport is getting this sports hate. I tell my wife all the time, sports hate is real, and,
Yeah.
and that whole state gets this hate just because of that moment. So,
That.
That was an
Yeah.
amazing play, and I'd
mm,
never seen anything like it.
yeah,
Never seen anything like that until that time, right?
Yeah.
right,
It's been
yeah,
John Riggins. John Riggins is one of my all-time favorites too.
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
He's in my top 5.
yeah, he
Yeah,
was great. That was a
Yeah.
man's man. He went out there and ran that ball
Yeah.
yeah,
time after
absolutely,
time after time, right? He ground
Yes, sir.
absolutely.
a real
Every
run and
time.
So,
grind guy. Yeah.
So I really want to hear more about your journey and what led you into dermatology. What sparked your passion for getting into skincare as a whole?
So I am a person who originally trained in pediatrics. I was a
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
baby
wow.
doctor for a while. I went
Hmm.
to I graduated from Morehouse College in Atlanta
Okay.
and attended the University of Pennsylvania School of Medicine,
Hmm.
and afterwards went off to train in Chicago to be a pediatrician, and I practiced for a number of years. But I realized that what I enjoyed most
Hmm.
about medicine was the fact that there were things you could see and everyone could see them, and it was just captivated my interest about seeing these diseases and all the different ways that they showed up on the skin.
Hmm.
So I decided I would leave pediatrics and become a dermatologist. And one of the things I remember when I was practicing general pediatrics was that it was really hard for people to ever see a skin doctor.
Hmm.
And also, it was really hard for people who didn't have standard medical insurance access
Right.
to see people who would take care of their skin. So part of my reasoning for entering dermatology was just that. I felt like I could fill a space, or at least uh, help to fill a space where I could contribute where there is a great need.
Hmm.
As I was training, I found out that of all the medical specialties, with rare exception, dermatology is one of the only specialties that has the least number of people of color that have access to it.
Mm.
This is an old census survey I saw back in the days when I was training back in the late 90s. And what it reminded me of is that there's this great need, but maybe not enough people there to fill the need. So
Right.
as I trained, I later focused on paying attention to various diseases that happen to be very common in Black patients. There's
Hmm.
quite a number. We get all the diseases, we get some more than others.
Right.
And I've spent a lot of my career making sure that I address those needs, as well as the fact that I see anybody. I see all patients that come, regardless of whether they're very light skinned or very dark skinned. But it's
Right.
become a particular interest of mine.
Awesome. Awesome.
That is.
So, Dr. Scales, there's so much advice about skincare out here right now. Not all of it's good stuff, but can you clear up some of the common myths for us, especially around natural remedies like apple cider vinegar for acne and tea tree oil for inflammation?
So you bring up a really tough topic. That's I probably talk about this a couple times a day. Every day I'm at work,
Mhm.
and the issue here is that I'm a bit older than you gentlemen, but certainly I remember pre-internet. So pre-internet, I think there was a greater belief that people had about how they would obtain their information.
Right.
They would look at certain sources of information as being a bit greater than other sources. So if someone were knowledgeable about certain things, they would want to hear the expert over
Mhm.
just a random person walking the street. I think in general now, people are very comfortable with the idea that they can do their own research. So research to them is putting in a topic and hitting Google. And
Yes.
Google spits out the answer, doesn't it? You see either TikTok or Google or Instagram, and how could it possibly be wrong? So I asked them, I said, this has a lot to do with the way they rank it is based on search engine optimization, meaning how good are you at making yourself appear to the top of the page? Let's say that your answer is number 19. Do you ever get down to number 19? No, they don't. But people have a lot of faith in what they call research, which is just Googling, which is really not research and it's not accurate information many times. People are quick to believe things that they want to believe. And I think many of these things that people have tried are great to try. The majority of them don't have any science behind them. There was a time when people used to want to know something about science.
Right.
Oh, this is a scientifically proven method for building muscle, growing hair, doing things like that. Now, all they need to hear is, I heard, or they say. Those are the experts. I heard and they say are, will justify anything. So I think you are right. It's hard to answer a lot of that. I try to be as open-minded and as accurate as I can from the information that I have. I think part of my job as a doctor is to be able to go and to read things and to look at various medical sources and try to condense what I think makes some sense medically, and to then bring it to a person and try to explain it in layman's terms and see if that's something they might be interested in. It's impossible for me to know if tea tree oil fixes everything. There are so many sort of snake oil. So tea tree fixes everything. Black castor oil fixes everything.
Right.
Shea butter fixes everything. And cocoa butter fixes everything too. And now coconut. I forgot coconut. Yeah, that's everything. It's got to be great. What made you think that coconut was going to, fix that? And then they say,
I heard. Yeah, that's it.
See, our day it was just tussin. You just put tussin on everything.
Hey, in my household it was Vicks. Take a spoonful of this. Put this on your chest. Put this on the bottom of your foot. Oh, you got to put this in it. That's what they say.
And at a time when we have more information than ever in the history of mankind, people are more suspicious of anything that looks like it might be something that may be objective. I don't know what's happened. From what I've read, this is a worldwide phenomenon. People no longer want to believe in the experts. The experts have steered us all wrong and caused society to be what it is. But there's a lot of that. I never say that these things don't work. I just say that I don't have any proof that they work for many of the things they work for. And maybe they do. So I leave an open mind because many things are good for things that we just haven't gone through the rigorous testing for all these things.
Yeah,
understood.
It's a good way to put it.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're always hearing about the importance of sun protection. I've won since I've been down in the South Carolina area, and I've told Les a few times that I've ended up with sunburn like 3 or 4 different times, and I'm like, it's been amazing to me. And I'm like, wait a minute, And when I say something, I always hear Black people don't get sunburned. But yeah, I'm witness. I've gotten it 3 or 4 different times, out cutting grass or at a football game or things like that. But what should we know when it comes to using sunscreen correctly, and how can we best protect ourselves from UV damage?
So that's a very good topic because it's a very appropriate topic right now. If you were to look at data about cancers in the United States. The number one cancer in the United States is skin cancer,
Skin cancer.
with at least somewhere between 800,000 to 1 million plus cancers a year.
Wow.
But they are not equally distributed to everyone. So the darker your skin, the more melanin you have, the less likely you are to have skin cancer.
Mm-hmm.
I used the word, I read an article, a scientific article, and they were trying to explain the relative risk. What is the chances of getting skin cancer of a Black person relative to a white person? And it was about, the risk was about 1/10 that of average different types of skin. But, you know, that varies. There's some very light-skinned Black people. There's some dark-skinned Black people. So
Right.
the word Black person doesn't necessarily explain the whole thing. It really has more to do with how much melanin you have.
Right.
Mm.
I've certainly seen my share of skin cancer among Black patients. And it's interesting what you said, because when I was growing up, we didn't talk about skin cancer or getting burned in the sun or any of those sorts of things. It's not that the sun wasn't hot, but it just wasn't something that was a conversation in our community.
Right.
What you just said is still common. I always give the example, if you get a chance to ever go to the Caribbean or go somewhere like that, you go to these beaches and you see things, these resorts. I mean, you go to the beaches, there's a lot of people sitting out there, particularly fair-skinned people sitting out there getting a suntan and everything. But look at the people that live there.
Mm-hmm.
You don't see them laying on the beach burning themselves up.
No.
You go to any of those sunny climates, they are not acting the same way.
The same way, right.
Right. So they know the sun will burn you.
Mm-hmm.
We have sort of learned some of our habits
Yeah.
from, you know, the things we experience here. And, you know, we may have gotten some information that is wrong. Of course, we can burn. I remember but I will tell you, the first time I went to the Caribbean, I put some sunscreen on. I was about 40 years ago. And I didn't put any on the top of my feet. I'm like, you know, the top of the feet, who burns the top of their feet? Well, 2 days later, I knew exactly
You
who burned
did.
the top of their feet. And I thought to myself,
Yeah.
before I knew anything about dermatology, like, that was so dumb. You know, so dumb. But no one had ever taught me about using sunscreen. And here I was, a physician, and I had gone to medical school. I was practicing pediatrics. It just wasn't anything that was common to our community or something that we talked about. I can't remember a single Black person, grandpa, ever talking about putting sunscreen.
Right.
Yeah.
So culturally, in many ways, we still are adjusting to some of the new recommendations. Another thing is that people have a lot more leisure time than they used to. You know, people I didn't know anyone that went to the Caribbean when I was growing up.
Right.
We went to Myrtle Beach, and then we got to, you know, I'm from the DC, Maryland area. We went to Sandy Point, you know. Got there, that was great. You got there, your grandma take you down there in the morning, eat some chicken, jump in the water a little bit, get back, and then go back home. You weren't laying on the beach and burning yourself up for days and days.
Right.
Affluence has allowed us to have more time off and to go to sunnier places. So again, a lot of that falls into it. It's a long answer to your question, but so how should we use it? Yes, everybody should use sunscreen. I don't care how dark you are. You can burn. It's probably harder to burn in Maine than it is down closer to the Caribbean.
Yeah, that's true.
And so if you are somewhere really sunny, or you're getting a lot of sun, or you have a lot of time off, yes, you should be using it. You apply it an hour before you think you're going to be in the intense sun, and you're supposed to reapply it every 2 hours while you're out. It's very few people that do both those things, but it is important to do both. If you're going to be out somewhere sunny, or maybe at the beach or somewhere where it's going to be really hot and sweaty, yes, you should reapply it, and you should use the kind that nobody likes. It's really a couple different types. You have the spray-on kind you put it on, looks like there's water going on there, and you look the same just like you did before you put it on. And people like that. But also, that's easy to wash off. That's easy to sweat off. You get in the water, and now you don't even have 2 hours worth of protection anymore. It's better to put the thicker and heavier things on that stay on and can stand up to the heat and the sweating. And so those are the ones I would recommend. My wife and my daughter make fun of me. I will choose the thickest sunscreen that I can put on. I was up in Baltimore with them. We were taking a little boat ride out in the bay out at Annapolis. And so I put on a sunscreen, they put one on. And I mean, it's blazing hot. I went out there and we're out in the boat riding around having a great time. I came back. They are browner and a little bit burned. I'm perfectly fine. So I get the last laugh at them. I said, "There, oh, you're putting house paint
Right.
on your face." Yes, I am. I'm putting house paint on my face, and I'm perfectly fine. Okay, but you guys are burnt. So it's not that you have to put the worst kind on. That's how
Right.
it would use it. But you have to put something that's going to work. Sunscreen, in its purest sense, is kind of like water, but you mix it in something, and then you put it on your skin so that it stays there. You want it to stay there.
I have a kind of a second part to this question, and one of the things, like, we've never been taught. So it's like, hey, there's all these different types of sunscreen, and then you have different levels from UV, 10, 20, 30 up to 50. I know when I went to Aruba the first time, and they said, hey, you gotta take SPF 50 with you. And I'm like, SPF 50? I'm like, where do you find that? And I'm looking everywhere, and I finally found it. But, is it something that, 50 is thicker than something, a 20, or is it just depending on the brand that you get?
So you bring up a good point. What does SPF mean? SPF means sun protection factor. So if you have an SPF 10, the way they measure it is, imagine if you took your arm and you stuck it out in the sun, and you wait and see how long for it to turn red. Then you put, at the same time, some sunblock onto your other arm. You put them both out at the same time. How long does it take for the one with the sunscreen to turn red compared to the one that doesn't have the sunscreen? So you say SPF level of 10, it's supposed to be 10 times the time. But notice, you're still going to turn red.
Right.
Okay.
You need to use a minimum of 15.
Okay.
That would be the minimum what I would use. But it's interesting because the difference between SPF of 15 and SPF of, say, 30 is not double. It's got this funny kind of shape curve that's long, meaningless. And the difference is probably about a difference of about 3%. It's better though, if you're going to be out there. It's definitely better. Right. What's most important to me is that you put on something that's going to stay on. So, how is it mixed? You can have some SPF here from a sunscreen, and it's like 50 or 60, 80, but it's very runny. So yes, if I'm not sweating, if I'm just hitting my arm still, if I'm not in the water, and I'm not wiping it, yeah, it's going to be better than one that maybe has an SPF of 20. But I'm better off with the thicker stuff that stays with me, that gives me the protection, than I am with the ones that are a higher number. How thick it is the best important. And the second thing to me is, most important, the best sunscreen for anybody is the one they're willing to wear. Some people aren't going to look a certain way. They're not going to wear that stuff. Right. So, but one that meets the needs, and you can apply again, and you don't mind the smell. For instance, some people don't like the smell. There are two major broad types of sunscreen. There's one that's called regular sunscreen. It's got a chemical in it that absorbs the sun rays. And then you have reflective sunscreen, or some people call it mineral sunscreen. So they take little bits of metal and they blend it up in a cream, and they put it on your skin. So it just is like an umbrella. It sort of reflects off of it. That's a easy one. It tends to be a little thicker, but less likely to irritate your eyes. Sometimes you put that stuff up on your face and it's down your eyes. Your eyes are burning. You can't see anything. Nobody likes that. So choosing to find the right kind. I personally am a big fan of mineral sunscreen. Again, I don't mind looking kind of, I got that stuff on.
Wow.
Other people mind it a bit more, but it does the job it's supposed to do. In fact, use the heavier stuff. Like sometimes I'll come back from the beach, I put sunscreen on a couple of times. I get in the shower and take a shower. I mean, it's hard to get stuff off. Good. That's the kind I'm supposed to use. Right. To me, that's the kind you're supposed to use. Not that you have to put on there. You want the kind that never comes off. It'll eventually come off, obviously, but the thicker it is, the better it is.
Yeah. Wow. I've never used sunscreen. Never ever. I've been lucky. Never been burned.
You're the veteran, right? No, you're the veteran, right?
We're both veterans.
We're both
veterans. Did you spend any time in sunny climates?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I think probably, I don't know your age. Maybe you're close to age. But there was a time people didn't pay attention to this. I was laughing with my daughter. I said, look, when I was a kid in the 60s, there used to be these commercials called the Copper Tan Tone. And the Copper Tan Tone girl. So there's a little girl running around in this, like what looks like underwear. And this dog would run up to her and grab the underwear and pull it down in the back.
You
And
see
that
it.
was stuff you were supposed to put this stuff on your skin. It would show that her skin was light under the underwear and it was dark the other way. And that was what you wanted. These were tan accelerators. You're trying to make yourself brown.
Mhm.
Selling that kind of promoting that kind of thing. I said, that's wrong on so many levels. First,
Yeah.
some dog just groping some little girl in a commercial. I mean,
Right.
somebody have to pay a price for that now. That they would pay a price for that now.
Right.
The second thing is that you weren't trying to block the sun, you're trying to enhance it. You're trying to make it better. And it wasn't until maybe the late 60s, early 70s that it became more popular for people to talk about then protecting yourself from the sun. That's a different way of looking at things. So depending on what you learn, that was not a popular thing, but we can all adjust.
I'm from the Midwest, so we didn't have super hot beaches, growing up.
I heard you say Detroit, right?
Yeah.
So I lived in Chicago for a while. Short summers, but man, they could be really hot.
You get a week.
They were blazing.
You get about a week or two in there where it gets really, really hot.
Yeah, it can be hot, but it doesn't have to be hot. One of the worst sunburns I ever had was when I was out skiing.
Oh wow!
Face, neck down. I got all his clothes on, but you get up to higher altitudes, and it wasn't hot. It was never hot, but the sun's rays were intense.
The rays.
So you're out there, and the sun can reflect off the snow back up.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I know about that.
That actually happened to me in West Virginia. I was at a football game, and the reflection of the sun hit me in the face, and my face was sunburned. As because the sun actually was behind me the whole time, but my face got sunburned because of the reflection. So
people ask me, I said sunscreen is not a substitute for using some common sense. The best sunscreen is shade. Nothing works better than that, right?
Yes, sir.
That's SPF infinity. You can sit under there and never burn, but use it to help when you're out, and think about it with exposed areas, and use it when necessary, and it'll help you. It also not only is it an issue of preventing skin cancer, it's an issue of aging as well. I don't know if you ever seen these people where
oh my gosh,
you look at them, they look like they're about 90 on their arm, and on their back they look like they're about 20, and people have exposed their skin. Again, Black patients think, well, black doesn't crack. It doesn't crack, but it does age. And we can help it, protect it from aging quite as fast by using some sunscreen. We have some benefit as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Things like that.
Cool. All right, Dr. Skills. A lot of men, especially Black men, deal with razor bumps. Myself included, I got a few underneath here, but I try not to clip them off so I'm bleeding all the time. What are some simple tips or best practices to prevent them?
It's a very common problem with Black men. The shape of the hair has everything to do with it. So if you look at people with very straight hair, Caucasian people, or maybe people who are Asian, they tend to have less trouble with the problems that we have. There are really two names that we give to that type of problem. Our hair shafts are shaped like little corkscrews. So if you cut them close, instead of growing directly out of the skin, they can spin back into the skin and get caught in the skin. So what you have is the bottom of the hair is in the skin, but so is the top of the hair. And you might see the little hair sticking, as it comes up and goes back. So what's best practice? So I recommend that people first, if you're going to use a blade, change your blade often. You have people who are using blades for like a month and all this kind of thing. And every time you use it, it gets duller and duller and duller, and more bacteria. So what do you want to do? You want to clean your face well. You want, if you can, get one of these little sponge type things. They call them a buff puff or a cosmetic sponge, but it's kind of like an artificial sponge. Kind of like you see that thing on Shark Tank. They have like the scrub daddy or something like that, but they make that for the face. Put a little soap in there, and you kind of use it in a circular motion. So it takes the hairs that might be lodged down in the skin and kind of raises them up a little bit. If you can use a pre-shave oil, you put a little pre-shave oil on there, and then you use a good thick shave cream, something like Aveeno or something that's that heavy gel stuff. Okay. Then you shave downward in the same direction. You try not to shave up against the grain. and you try to, be gentle. You don't want to get it too close. And then you go about your business. You might need to change that blade once a week. Now, if you're a person that shaves every day, I shave every day now. I probably change my blade once a week, but I try to use a high quality blade. It does not have to be a $15 blade. These blades, it's like buying a car, but
Right.
you get one that's not the cheap bottom of the barrel too. There used to be this brand called Bic, and I'm not selling Bic, but there's like one little blade. You can't even cut your whole face like one time with it. That's not enough. So maybe 2 blades, maybe 3. It doesn't have to be 6. It doesn't have to be the most expensive and you're breaking the bank, but something that's better than average that you can change frequently and not feel bad about it and break the bank.
Yeah.
So you do it that way. Now, what other things? People use electric shavers and trimmers. That's great. You don't have to obviously use a shave cream. You don't have to use a shave oil, but that idea of taking that little sponge and using it to circulate the hairs and to keep the hairs from growing in is a good idea. If you have ingrown hairs, and I get them every now and then, don't yank them out. People like to pull them out from the root, and what that does is it damages the hair shaft. It makes it harder for that hair to grow out again, because you might pull the hair out, but it's going to grow back out of that follicle. Cut it, pull it so it stands up, cut it evenly, and you can get someone to do it. You can do it yourself, maybe, or you can get someone to do it to pull out those ingrown hairs so they aren't hurting you as much. And that's a better thing to do than plucking them with tweezers, which a lot of people do. I see a lot of damaged skin, a lot of scarred skin. I had a lady in the day who had all sorts of scarring down on her face where she's plucked hairs over the years and just irritated herself. She's got scarring and dark spots and she's unhappy, all related to just managing shaving.
Wow.
There's other things like Magic Shave. We all grew up watching people use Magic Shave.
Yeah.
It's not a bad thing, but it can be really irritating, can burn people. Just about everybody I know that ever used it at some point burned themselves.
Yeah.
Smells
horrible too.
It's terrible.
Yeah. I got so many questions. I mean, that just opened up so many more questions now. we got to go to break, but okay. So before we go to break, what about people that are using like the strips, like the waxing strips and things like that, and pulling the hairs out?
I think for the most part, it's not a terrible thing. I have a hard time imagining down in here with the beard of most men, particularly black men, that just a little strip's going to pull that off.
It don't. I mean,
you can see people, if you're talking about the little fine hairs up through here, it's fine. If you want to wax up there, I don't know any men that can wax well enough down here to get rid of enough of their facial hair. I got some tough hair down here. And waxing is, sort of what it does is it gets very hot. It grabs one and it's supposed to just sort of gently pull the hair out by using that heat, and it sort of, it hardens and you take it off. I hear it hurts a lot. I've never had it done. I never thought it would be something to work with, but it can irritate the skin too. If you look at a lot of men, and I know you have to go to break, but if you look at a lot of men, look at somebody about 20. Their forehead's the same color as their neck, and then down here where the beard area is. But you look at men after they got 40s, 50s, 60s, there may be a color difference here.
Right.
Darker, because you've rubbed the skin, you've irritated it, you've done things to it that have caused friction. And in black patients, chronic friction leads to increased melanin. That's how you get those dark spots.
Dark spots. Oh,
wow.
So there are ways we recommend, if you can avoid it, people come in and get some laser hair removal. You have the laser done, you can slow down how much hair you grow, and then you can shave less. I remember being young, I couldn't wait till I started shaving. Now that I shave every day, get tired of shaving. I like to have it shave less.
Yeah.
So those are options as well for them.
Wow. Okay. Well, we got to go into break, but before we go to break, I got to tell the Manspace Nation about our sponsor. You guys know who it is. It is Manscaped. And Manscaped has got you covered because we're talking about razor bumps. And in talking about razor bumps, you can use the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. The 5.0 Ultra has this ergonomic design and skin-safe technology to help you prevent you from getting razor bumps. It's got a beautiful light, and It's waterproof, so you can use it in your shower. And fellas, you know what? Your ladies will love it too. And we were talking about the little buffer. How about using the body buffer? Hey, you can exfoliate your face with the body buffer. Now, Manspace Nation, here's a treat for you. If you use our code TMSP20, that is TMSP20, you get 20% off and free. Did I say free? Yes, I said free shipping. Because if it's free, we'll
It's
take
for
free.
me, baby.
And as we always say, don't do it for us, do it for your balls. We are back with more of the Manspace podcast with our special guest, Dr. Jeffrey Scales. Now, we were talking before the break a little bit about UV and things like that, but skin cancer is something that a lot of people of color don't think that they'll ever get. You kind of touched on it a little bit. How often should we be checking our skin for that? And what are the signs and symptoms they should be looking for when checking their skin?
Yeah, skin cancer, again, as I mentioned, is the most common form of cancer in the United States. And most of us don't know very many people of color that get skin cancer, but it does happen. Mm-hmm. In many studies, or at least the last study I read about this, when Black people get skin cancer, then it tends to be further advanced. Mm-hmm. Because people don't tend to examine their skin in the same way that maybe we probably should. What are you looking for? Sores that don't heal. Mm-hmm. There's several different types of skin cancer. There's basal cell carcinoma, squamous cell carcinoma, and then there's melanoma, which is the worst of the big three. Melanoma tends to be brown, tends to be a spot, grows quickly, changes. In general, it can be found anywhere on the whole body, sometimes even like in the brain or behind the eye. But most of the time, it's in the sun-distributed area. Okay. In people who are browner, the most common place is the palms and the soles. So we don't really think about skin cancer like that. So it's not on the head and neck. It's the most common. But it can be there and around the nails. But people in general, it's the arms and back and trunk and buttocks and places like that. The other two are sun-related. We think that melanoma is sun-related as well, but doesn't necessarily have to be because it shows up in places sometimes where the sun is never seen. Wow. But yeah, skin cancer are things that if you have any doubt about moles, I think it's worthwhile going to an expert. You can look online and they'll show wonderful pictures of things. Mm-hmm. There's the A, B, C, D, E criteria. Those are nice things to sort of trigger you to think about it and help you to make a decision to go see a skin doctor or maybe your primary care doctor about whether that's a mole that needs to be checked. And most of the time you can look at it and tell. Sometimes you can't tell. Sometimes it just looks perfectly fine, and you might need to do a biopsy, take a piece of skin, send it to the lab. Mm-hmm. Every mole does not need to be biopsied, but ones that are suspicious and that the doctor feels looks like need more attention should be removed and checked.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I do have a little bit another question that's kind of off of when you start talking about biopsies and things like that, because I know I'm actually in a group or a forum of people that are dealing with lipomas, and I have several of those like under the skin, and I normally go to my primary care, and I'm like, hey, is there any type of research, any type of studies, and so I've seen other people in the forum say, well, I just go to a dermatologist and they'll do a biopsy and just remove them for me, and instead of trying to deal with the primary care, just kind of. Have you had to deal with that, or is that something that you even recommend people doing?
And this is for lipomas you're talking
about? Yes.
Mm-hmm. So just for the audience sake, a lipoma is a collection of fat in a location that's bumpier than average. All of us are naturally covered in fat, and we're supposed to be. It acts as like a shock absorber. It helps keep us warm, protects the bones. You need something to, sort of take the beating. And so what you find is the fat decides to clump in one area more than another. A lipoma is normal. It's got normal stuff in it, but it groups together in some area. You would have it removed for one of several reasons. One reason to have it removed, if you wanted it, would be because you didn't like the way it looked. Maybe it made a lump somewhere that you didn't want.
Right.
Sometimes they do hurt. They might get trapped around a certain area and they hurt a bit. So they are removed for that purpose. And every now and then, some of them might be malignant or something in there that requires some additional attention. Those will be the three reasons to remove them. I've got one. Many people have them. They can be common. I think I'd probably say I see 5% of the population that I see has a lipoma. So it may not be shaped the way you want it to be shaped, but everything, for the most part, everything under there is something that's supposed to be there. As opposed to the last conversation we were talking about, which was cancer, which is not supposed to be there. You don't want that there. So that's a reason why you would intervene and do something about it. You had something that was normal that changed into something that's abnormal. That should, as opposed to something like a lipoma, where it's something that's there, but maybe it's not quite in the location the way it wants, or it doesn't give you the visual way you want, or the feeling that you may want.
Understood.
Cool.
We're going to take a break and we're going to come back and close the show out, but we're going to pick back up with part 2 of this conversation next week with Dr. Jeffrey Scales. As we do each week, we like to close the show with just a little bit of inspiration. The word of the week is self-esteem. Self-esteem refers to a person's overall sense of their value or worth. It's a measure of how someone values, approves of, appreciates, or likes themselves. When self-esteem is positive, it leads to confidence and self-respect. People with a healthy self-esteem are content with themselves, their abilities, and who they are. Healthy self-esteem makes us resilient and hopeful about life. It affects not only our thoughts, but our feelings and behaviors. It has significant ramifications for our happiness, relationships, work, goals, and self-care. Even in the face of failure, a healthy self-esteem can remain intact. People with a healthy self-esteem credit themselves when things go right, and they honestly evaluate their mistakes and shortcomings to improve upon them. On the other hand, impaired self-esteem negatively impacts our abilities to manage adversities and life's disappointments. It leads to insecurity, self-comparison, self-doubt, and self-criticism. An impaired self-esteem affects all our relationships, including ones we have with ourselves. Remember that self-esteem varies on a continuum. It's not black or white. Symptoms of a healthy self-esteem include confidence in one's own worth and abilities, realistic assessment of one's strengths and weaknesses, and acceptance of flaws without judgment. While a person with an impaired self-esteem suffers from insecurity, self-comparison issues, and hypersensitive to criticism. Remember, self-esteem is not about being perfect. It's about embracing your uniqueness and believing in yourself. So Manspace Nation, be kind to yourself and let your confidence shine. Till next week, stay inspired and keep shining. Man, as we've been talking with Dr. Jeffrey Scales today, I never put the correlation between how your skincare routine is directly related to your self-esteem and how you view yourself. See, a lot of times we sit there, and if we see blemishes on our face, we want to hide behind this and hide behind that, hide behind tons of makeup. Yes, men do it too. They want to hide behind makeup. They want to hide behind filters. And now we got AI that's out there and changing your appearance of how you look. I mean, the skincare industry is over $148 billion globally. Man, I'm in the wrong business, to be honest, but that's that's a story for another conversation. But Manspace Nation, think about it, man. Just think about how you can sit there and allow skincare to keep you in limited social circles, can keep you from pursuing opportunities. It can keep you from achieving your dreams. We're going to pick up next week with more with Dr. Jeffrey Scales, and my co-host is already gone for the day, so I'm going to go ahead and say his line for him. We out of here. Thank you for listening to this episode of The Man Space.
Whichever platform you listen to us on, make sure you subscribe and don't miss a show.
Remember to keep up with all the Manspace updates on our website, themanspacepodcast.com.
And you can follow us on Instagram at manspacenat1.
Until next time, Manspace Nation, he's Les, I am Russ, and we are out
Out of here.